It's the Last Stand Podcast. And here's your host, Brian Custer.
That's right. It is The Last Stand. I'm Brian Custer, and our guest today comes from the sport of boxing. And when you talk about female boxers, this woman is the most successful woman to ever lace up a pair of gloves, trailblazer, Hall of Famer, and now a successful promoter. She is none other than Christy Martin when she fought the coal miner's daughter. Christy, welcome to The Last Stand. How you doing?
I'm well. Thanks for having me. I certainly appreciate being on with you, and looking forward to having a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So my first question to you is, now you're a big time promoter. How has life been as a promoter for you?
Well, I'm not so sure that I can get big time in there yet, but that's where we're headed. It's way more difficult being the promoter than being the fighter. I mean, oh my goodness, so many headaches, so many I's that have to be dotted, T's that have to be crossed, lots of moving parts to keep together, and a lot of attitudes just with the fighters. And usually it's not even the fighters with the attitude, it's their corner, it's their coaches and managers, and a lot of personalities to deal with as well.
How is it promoting during a pandemic?
Well, it's been tough. I at my level, I live on ticket sales, and when you can't sell those tickets, it's really hard. It's harder to get sponsors. It's harder, for the whole, even to get fighters, because the gyms are closed. They haven't been in the gym training, and even up until the time they get on the plane, you're hoping that no one tests positive for COVID at any case, but especially those fighters that you're counting on to put on a great show for the fans.
What is your goal when it comes to promoting? Are you looking to be one of the huge promoters in the sport, mid-level promoter? What's the goal?
It's like everything that I've ever done. I want to be the best. And so I have a long way to go, a lot of growing to do, but I feel like I learned from the best on King, and I got to display my personal skills on Showtime. So that's given me a little edge, like, okay, now I've been there as a fighter. I want to be back to Showtime as a promoter. And I think I actually have 2 kids now that are ready for show box, young and upcoming guys. Johnny Langston, a cruiserweight that just won on Don King's show last month. And then we have a couple 147 pounders and younger guys that are ready to make that next step.
And talk to me about your next event. When will you be putting on another show?
We just finished in Orlando Friday night, and it was a great show, sold out. I think we had 12 fights. Everybody was, very competitive, very hyped to be there. Of course, some fights were better than others, as in any show. But the next one coming is very special. It's going to be in Vero Beach, Florida, April 10th. And I have married my two, my passion and my heart. Boxing, I want to do great things. But the reason that I feel like I'm still here is domestic violence awareness. And that's what I have to do, is to really keep the domestic violence awareness to everyone that I can talk to, everyone I can touch. I want to spread the word, be more aware of what's going on around you, whether it be your mother, your sister, your coworkers, whomever. Domestic violence has touched us all.
It's fantastic. I love it.
So what we're doing, we're actually, it's a black tie event in Vero Beach, and we're going to have 5 very good fights. And then we're going to have, between the fights, we'll have a couple speakers that are going to maybe 3 to 5 minutes. And it's going to be about raising money for domestic violence in the local shelter there in Vero Beach.
Oh, that's great. That's hot. I appreciate it. That is great. We'll make sure and promote that as well. So let's go back to the beginning. How does a young lady from Mullins, West Virginia, get into boxing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Other than it was a little crazy, right? Because at that time, I had never seen a female boxer. I'd never seen a professional female fighter. I didn't even know there was a such thing. But I kept wanting to enter into this tough man contest. So of course I want to fight the women. So I kept on the promoter, like, come on, when are you going to have women? When are you going to have women's division? So finally one year he decides to add the women's division. And I was like the first one to sign up for it. just hooked on the sport. I mean, I think it's, of course, at the beginning, I had no idea how serious it was and how really I took chances that I would have never taken had I known how serious I could have gotten hurt. But hey, I love it. I fell in love with the sport. The fans were crazy, and I knocked a couple girls out, and it just, the hook just kept getting in a little deeper and a little deeper.
How old were you at the time, and what was your parents' response?
Yeah, I was 18, a freshman in college, and my parents didn't like the idea. My mom, cried. She wouldn't come to watch. And then my dad, he came, but he was just, my dad is like real serious. If you're gonna do this, get in shape and learn how to really fight if you're gonna continue to do this.
Wow. All right. So you're doing these tough man contests. How does that then parlay into professional prize fighting?
Well, so I'm thinking I get a call from a promoter down in Bristol, Tennessee. Would I come to fight his girl? Of course, I don't understand the business of boxing. So when a promoter calls you to come fight his girl, pretty much all the cards are stacked against you. But I thought, well, why not do it one time so I could tell, everybody, all my friends, that look what I did once was a professional fight. And I thought it would be a great story. So I went down to Bristol, Tennessee. I had the fight, beat the shit out of this girl, Angela Buchanan. I mean, knocked her down, beat the crap out of her for 4 rounds, and they called it a draw. I'm like, how could it be a draw? I mean, I beat her up and knocked her down. But there you go. I learned, that was my first lesson of professional boxing. So anyway, they asked for a rematch, and I was like, you know what? It wasn't really a good story. I didn't win. I didn't lose. So let me go try one more time. And again, I just kept getting more hooked and more hooked with boxing.
And then how did you get a trainer? How did all of that come about? How did the ball get rolling for Christy Martin?
So I had my first 7 professional fights and never been in a boxing gym.
Wow.
I was playing basketball at Concord College, but this is what I'm saying. Like, I didn't really realize how serious boxing is at that time. So I had my first 7 fights. I'm still in college. I'm about to graduate. And the promoter from Bristol, Tennessee says, look, I have somebody that wants to train you. So it was all about timing. I thought, you know what, I'm going to go down there to Bristol for maybe 6 months or something, kind of live it up, have fun, do a little bit of this boxing, and then I'll come back, get a job, my degree's in education, and I'll just be teaching school in Southern West Virginia for the rest of my life. But it was different than that. It didn't exactly happen like that. So I did go to Bristol, and I met the trainer that he was talking about, which was Jim Martin. And it was clear that Jim didn't want to train me, but the man that was paying him wanted him to train me. So he didn't have a real choice. He had to train me.
And so he had to train you. How then did the relationship develop from boxer trainer to eventually spouse?
Yeah, sometimes I wonder that myself. How did I let that happen? But it was just, we were both new to the city of Bristol, and just started spending time together. I don't know what happened. I made a mistake. I made a huge mistake judging him personally. But I think it was his timing. We were both kind of lonely, and or at least I was. I was, and just kind of reaching out for somebody to be there.
Yeah. And maybe this is a hard question, but did you know at the time you were a lesbian?
Oh yeah. I mean, I had already had girlfriends from high school and college, and Jim knew that too. I mean, Jim knew.
He
Yeah,
knew
yeah.
going
He knew,
into
absolutely. Because we were really friends at first. I don't know if we were really friends, but I was opened up to him like a coach, like an athlete will talk to the coach. And so I told him everything. He knew everything. He knew all the truth. So yeah, there was no surprise to him at the end.
And do you think it was because, even though, we're talking about the 90s, that it would be looked down upon if people knew that Christy Martin was a lesbian at that time?
I think I wouldn't have been given the opportunities that I was given had Christy Martin been with a woman and tried to get those opportunities with Don King and Showtime even. I'm not sure those same opportunities would have materialized for me.
Yeah. So talk to me then. How did as Jim is training you, how do you meet Don King, and then all of a sudden the rise of Christy Martin? How does all that come about?
Yep. So it was everything in life, I guess, is timing. I was in a gym in Daytona Beach. Jesse Robinson, who was training fighters for Don King at the time, came in, watched me train, and just like started watching me a little bit from the other side of the gym. And then as time went on, he got closer and closer and ended up being in my team or on my team. He took me to Don King. He was like, I'm going to take you to King. And of course, I'm from a small town in Southern West Virginia. I'm like, yeah, sure. Of course. And just kept doing my thing. I had gone up to fight in the Palace in Detroit. Jackie Callan brought me up there for a fight right before I signed with Don King. And I thought, wow, that was pretty amazing to me. But then to be sitting across the table and just a few weeks later, be sitting across the table from Don King was, I don't even know what words to use for that, because again, I'm from a town of 500 people. Here I am with Don King, and Julio Cesar Chavez was in the office that day. And like all these fighters are running in and out, coming in and out. So it was pretty overwhelming.
And I think people have to understand at that time, Don King was the Al Heyman of today. Back then, he was the guy. Why do you think then Don King said, and at this time, we really weren't seeing female fighters on main events and those kind of large platforms. What do you think he saw in you that said, you're going to be the one?
I have no idea. Why he gave me the opportunity that he gave me, but I am obviously grateful that he did. But I also think that, he pretty much treated me like a fighter. He didn't like make it easy for me because you're a female fighter. He just put me out there to fight. And as long as I kept winning and kept the fans talking a little bit, he kept putting me out there.
And so it was Don King who puts you on a pay-per-view fight, if I'm not mistaken. You're the first female, correct? To ever have that time. Did you realize at the time the impact you were making?
I had no idea. The funny story about that fight, it was Tyson Bruno was the main event. I fought Deirdre Gogarty. And after the fight, I went up to my room and my voicemail at my hotel was full. And it was full from people like Jay Leno's show, Good Morning America, all this. I mean, you name it, they were on that voicemail. And I remember calling the media guy from Showtime and say, why would people play this kind of joke on me? Like I was hurt that somebody would joke me like this. And he says, you don't get it. You're not down here. Like everybody's talking about your fight. They're not talking about Tyson. They're talking about your fight down here in the casino. And I was like, wow, it's all legitimate, Christy. So of course he came up and started taking down names and numbers, and I went on a little media tour for a week or so after the fight. It was pretty cool.
And if my memory serves me correct, I remember as a youngster watching this, and was that the fight where I think your face was all bloody, your nose was all bloody, and it was like, this woman is still throwing and killing this woman, and look at her face, her nose, and everything.
Absolutely. That was the most profitable bloody nose in boxing history, because it got me out there. It got everybody's attention. Had it just been a fight, Gogarty, we were having a pretty good little war, but the blood is added to it that people start to think, oh, I would quit, or wow, like Gogarty must be busting my butt because I'm all bloody and look beat up, but I'm the one giving it to her. So yeah, people were telling me that the guys were in the green room that at the Jim Grand, and like they all walked to the back, and then by like the third round they were like pushing the women out of the way trying to get back to the TV screen. So
and as you are, because you were really popular, let's be honest about that. I mean, you were as popular as any fighter, male, female, at the time. How was that, handling that? And then I would assume your home life was the total opposite.
my home life sucked. I mean, it was a living hell. And that's what, in front of the cameras, I was always smiling and happy. And the things I was doing it was unbelievable that I'm getting this attention and this opportunities. But when the lights went off, it was just Jim and me. And it was a living hell. I say that I lived in a box, and I sometimes would bump against the walls to try to get out of the box, but after a while, it wasn't worth it. The fights were just too much. I didn't want to fight with him anymore. So I gave in.
In 1996, Christy, you were the first female boxer to appear on Sports Illustrated, and the title, Boxing's New Sensation. What was that like? And at that point, did the gravity hit you like, wow, I've arrived?
I don't even know that it ever hit me. I don't even know that today I even really get it. But to go to buy that Sports Illustrated, of course, Sports Illustrated sent me a box, but I wanted to go buy it off the newsstand. So when I put it down the counter, the guy would be like, "Oh, wow, that's you." So I did that. I went up like a half mile from my house and put the magazine on the counter. The guy, this is some young kid. He doesn't even look up to see who I am or who's buying the magazine. And so I'm like, dude, that's me on the cover. I needed a reaction. But yeah, that's overwhelming too. People ask me, do you get tired of seeing this? I'm like, are you kidding me? How could anybody get tired of seeing themselves on the cover of Sports Illustrated?
And what does it feel like, considering, I mean, you're the first and you're still the only that's ever had that opportunity? And you look at, there've been some great female fighters, but you're still the first and the only. What does that mean to you?
One thing about it, no one can ever take away the first. So that will always have that I will be the first. I think it's a great statement. I think it's a great statement for the time. I mean, and it really showed the progression of female athletes, I think. And that was just the start for female boxing.
Okay, so we go to November of 2010. Obviously, a really, really tragic day in your life. Tell us what happens.
So November of 2010, November 23rd, 2010. I went to my house, and after being away for a couple of days, and I knew that I was going into a bad situation. I knew that this was the day that Jim was going to kill me.
Because you were telling him the marriage was over, correct?
Oh, I had already told him. I'm like, look, I'm out, done. And he knew this, but we didn't actually argue that day. I went in, asked why he wasn't at the gym, and I had a terrible headache, so I went to lay down. The entire time I was laying down, he was like sharpening a knife on the phone, yelling, and so finally, I decided my head's still hurting. I'm gonna just get up and go for a run, because I guess I couldn't relax. So I thought I'll go for a run, and I put one shoe on. He walks in, and he said he had something to show me. So I'm thinking, me being crazy, I'm thinking that he has a boxing contract, and that, wow, I'm gonna get back in the gym. I'm gonna get back to boxing. But no, he had a knife, and so he stabbed me like 3 times on my side, puncturing my lung, and then he stabbed me one through the breast. With that one, blood went everywhere. So I tried to kick him away from me. He cut my calf muscle almost completely from my leg. And then we fought, we struggled. I tried to get away. He left me laying on the floor for a long time, and he would walk in and out. I mean, this is a son of a bitch that he was. He walked in with a telephone cord, like actual telephone, that we don't even have anymore, but like
right.
we have on the wall or something.
Right.
Okay. So the cord's hanging down, of course, not attached to anything. And he's like, "Oh, I can't get this phone to work. I can't get this phone to work." And this is why I'm laying on the ground bleeding.
Oh my God, bleeding.
And asking him, I can hear my lung gurgling. So I know that I'm bleeding, things aren't going to be good here. And he was an ass. And then he came in finally, stood at my feet, pointed a gun at me, my own pink 9mm, pointed a gun at me. And I told him, "You don't have the balls to shoot me." And he shot me.
Mm,
So I was like, wow, I guess I was wrong there. But
mm.
with that, he, I remember looking up, and it's funny because I was looking through a vent in my ceiling, and I right to God's eyes, I feel like, and I said, please God, let me get out of here, because I realized at some point during all this, he can't let me live. I mean, he can't let me live. He's got to kill me.
Right.
So, by the grace of God, I heard the shower water turn on, and that was like my key to get out, my cue, go, Christy, go. And I did. I picked up my car keys. I was going to drive myself to the hospital, but I had the wrong keys. So I'm like, oh shit, man. So I went to the middle of the road and basically carjacked somebody. Rick Cole, who is my angel, picked me up, took me to the hospital. They got me stable and life flighted me to the trauma hospital, and the rest is history. God left me here for a reason. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna do my very best to keep the word out there about domestic violence.
Let me tell you something. You want to talk about the strength of the human spirit for a person to be stabbed 4 times and shot, that yet you still had enough strength to get up and get out of there, and that you're alive today to tell that story. Have you even come to grips on, like you said, how God said it is your plan to stay here, be on this planet, and use this then as your platform?
I think I have. As soon as I came to in the hospital, that was the first thing I told everybody. I want to go back to the gym. I'm going back to the ring. I'm going to fight again, but I have to. God left me here for a reason, and I have to make sure that I do good. I do good on that reason. So that's what I do. I go out. I speak at jails and of course domestic violence shelters, any place, anytime, boxing gyms, wherever, any opportunity I get to share my story and just to bring the awareness to domestic violence, I do it. And the main thing is for people to understand that you cannot wait, because you don't know what day that's going to be, that abuser is going to. My situation with Jim wasn't really physical until it was.
Mm.
And then, you don't know what day that's going to be.
Wow. Man, that's something. To me, I'm even more impressed that it was basically 6 months later. I think it was in June of the next year where you had another fight. I'm like, how does this woman survive that? And 6 months later in the ring fighting.
I was actually scheduled by Top Rank to fight in March, and Miguel Diaz was my trainer. Miguel Diaz was training me. So I'm in Vegas, and he puts me in with this young guy sparring, and he told the kid, he's like, look, go at her full blast. Cause I need to see her bleed. And he was afraid that I was going to get a little bit panicked when I saw blood. But instead the kid hit me with a good body shot. And when he hit me with that body shot, it broke my rib, but it's the same rib that the gunshot went through. So I'm thinking the rib was probably a little bit, damaged already. And the kid hit me with the hook and it broke the rib. So I didn't get to fight until June. But how crazy is this? I fought on the undercard of Chavez Jr., right after fighting all those shows with Julio and watching Buffalo carry Junior in on his shoulders. And now here I am fighting on the undercard. So it was like, maybe I stayed around too long.
Yeah, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, you had 49 wins. You were going for your 50th win, correct? At that time.
Yeah, I was, wanted so badly to get that 50th win. But, I've kind of come to the conclusion that I got my 50th win November 23rd, 2010, when I got up off the floor and I got out. That was getting my 50th win.
Absolutely. You're right about that. So in 2016, you were the first female boxer inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Again, you're the first. What did that mean to you then? What does it mean to you now?
Yeah, it's a very exciting, it's a great honor. I just wish we could have the ceremony.
Yeah.
We've been delayed, of course, 2020, then 2021, and now it'll be 3 years altogether in 2022, hopefully. But yeah, it's exciting, but it hurt me more when it was canceled. Like I was wow, like I can't believe that all this time, we tried to be part of the Boxing Hall of Fame, and then to get that call that I was going to be inducted, and then to have the ceremony postponed again is hurtful.
Yeah. I can imagine. Here's one thing I'm always curious, because you've always talked glowingly about Don King. You hear other guys, whether it be Mike Tyson and other ones, like, hey, this guy took so much money from me. How come Christy Martin never had any stories like that?
I don't know. I think because first of all, I got every dime I was supposed to get. I mean, so how can I really say anything? I got bonuses sometimes. I got I fought the number of times I was supposed to fight. I got paid when I was supposed to get paid. I really can't say anything. I can't say anything bad. And I do think he's the greatest promoter of our time. Social media has changed promotions a lot. But DK is one of those guys that he needed to do it like old school. He needed to be out with the people. He needed them to be able to touch him, and they, vice versa. So, I don't think he hasn't been able to adjust to the social media maybe as much as like Top Rank.
Christy, do you think the state of women's boxing, was it better when you were in your prime, because it was you and Layla Ali and you had so many big people, or what about now? Which one's better?
Wow, that's kind of like one of those. I think it was better during my time. I mean, it was there were maybe less fighters, but like if I felt like we were very competitive. I mean, there may have been fewer, but yet everybody that was talked about, was all competitive. Good matches. Of course, women being able to be in the Olympics has to help. I at least I thought it would help. Again, until we have a major promoter that puts a female fighter on where many eyes are going to see the fights, and it has to be a good matchup. We have a lot of mismatches in boxing period, but in female boxing specifically. And we need that personality that, I felt like my success part of it was just, I was your next door neighbor. You could go knock on your door and it could be me. It wasn't like, I was a little arrogant, a little cocky, but with the fans, I was good. Like I was always wanted to take pictures and sign autographs and whatever the fans wanted. I understood. That's who put me where I was.
Yeah, because, obviously Clarissa Shields now one of the top fighters. She says networks have made all kinds of excuses not to put female fighters on in main type of events, pay-per-view type of events. She said that's one of the reasons why she's dipping her foot into MMA, because she believes that MMA does a better job promoting their female fighters. What do you think?
Well, I think she's probably right. And it's funny because back in my time in the 90s, Dana White was 100% against women in the combat sports. So it's kind of odd that now really Ronda Rousey probably turned it around for the UFC and the female fighters. So she opened up a great door there, and more power to her and to him now that he actually opened up his eyes and sees the opportunities that he can get from giving these women exposure. I don't know why boxing can't use that same roadmap, but it's also boxing's not using the same roadmap on making matches either. I mean, over there on UFC, and I don't like it. I don't like the MMA stuff, but the best fights the best. And here in boxing, sometimes we figure out how the best not to fight the best, and too much is given to that. Oh no, what if everybody in the 70s wanted to protect their back in the day, 80s? No, Hagler, Hearns, Leonard, all those guys, Duran. Oh, they were going to fight each other, or whether it be the heavyweights, could be, the Ali, Foreman and Norton and all those guys. They were all willing to take a chance.
And so let me ask you this, considering you're one of the greatest, you're now a promoter. What advice would you give to, let's say, networks? Would you give to other big time promoters to get the state of women's boxing to maybe where it was in your day, where it was common to see Layla Ali, all you guys on pay-per-view, to be main event type things, because we've got great fighters. And you got Clarissa, you've got Katie, you've got Cecilia Brækhus, you've got some great fighters. What would it take to get those guys and those ladies in main events on, with whether it be Showtime or on pay-per-view undercards like you were?
Well, I think it takes the female fighters have to understand it's business. And so as you're going through, you have to build up your fan base. And that's what it all comes down to, is all about business. You know, even the guys that are on the undercard of the fights, it's the guys that are going to bring attention to the undercard. It's not just anybody. It's always about who's going to bring attention.
Very good advice. This segment of the show is brought to you by Man Cave Health. It's a public charity that raises awareness nationwide for prostate cancer. Many of you know I battled prostate cancer, and had it not been for me taking a PSA test, the doctor told me I could have been dead within a year. 30,000 men die every year from prostate cancer simply because they didn't know their number. They didn't get an annual check. And also, do you know 1 out of every 4 Black men are diagnosed with prostate cancer? My first question to you, Christy, is how important is your health to you?
Yeah, well, me, very, a lot of people may not know, but I had a stroke after that fight. That was just 6 months after being shot and stabbed. I broke my hand in 9 places. And when they put me to sleep to have fix my hand, I had a stroke. So with that, I probably have started to pay a little closer attention to my health. And I'm getting old, as I'm getting older, I'm like, oh, wow, things don't move quite like they used to. So we have to be more cautious and more aware of all of our numbers.
Do you know of anyone in your family or that's been close to you who's been a male that's been affected by prostate cancer?
I do not. I was thinking about that earlier. I don't think that I do know someone personally, but I do know how important it is. And I know that, like my father always, is it once a year or every 6 months?
Yeah, we make sure you get it at least every year.
Yeah. So I know my father's getting tested, and like all the men in my family are being tested. So I don't know. So we've been blessed that no one's had any cancer or anything.
And let me ask you this, Christy, why do you think it seems that women are more often making their men go to the doctor? Like you said, hey, I make sure my father's there every year. Why is it that it seems like women are more diligent about, hey, men, you need to get to the doctor, whereas we are like, we're not even thinking about going unless something's happened to us?
Right. Well, it's, I think the guys they don't want to go. I think the chickens, the big chickens, they don't want something to be wrong. Truthfully, you just don't want to hear that something needs help. You always want to feel like you're invincible. And, it's always, it's like makes you nervous, even though
yes.
you know, everything is good. Go to the dentist, right? You think everything is good. Well, they always find something's wrong.
The mission for Man Cave Health is to encourage all men to take just 1 hour out of the year to either get a physical and a PSA test. And with donations from people just like you, you can help other men who maybe don't have the resources to pay for a PSA test or a physical exam. All you've got to do is go to the Man Cave Health website at mancavehealth.org and sign up for their free newsletter. It is a great resource. And please make a donation, because this public charity is trying to make sure that all men can get a physical and a PSA test. And all you've got to do to donate to this public charity is text The Last Stand to 44321. Christy, for everybody who watches and listens to this podcast, we allow them to submit questions, and we got a number of them. They just came raining down for you. So I want to get to a few of these. This first one comes from Sonny from Twitter. He says, where did you find the motivation to keep training, knowing that your situation at home was terrible? Was it your escape?
It was definitely my escape. Boxing was my savior. And that was where I was comfortable. And I felt like that was the only time that I kind of was in charge of me, was in the boxing ring.
This next one from Twitter as well. It says, what is the main reason for choosing a fight with Layla Ali, so many weight classes above your weight?
The main reason was because I felt like I would beat her. You know, I knew she was much bigger. I knew she was much heavier. I honestly didn't realize how tall she was until I'd already signed the contract. But you know, I felt like that Layla, I was going to hit her like she'd never been hit before, and she was not going to react well to that. But she hit me before I could hit her. So yeah, that, and I went to the bank. That's it. I mean, we got to call it like it is.
Absolutely. I love it. Okay, this one comes from Kevin from Facebook. He says, was there one fight you never had that you wish you could have?
Oh, of course. I mean, I'm pretty sure if you know who I am, if you know me, you know who I'm about to say. And Lucia Riker, who we signed the contract to fight for $1 million. And, you know, she chased me around. It was at the press conference. I told her, you're just like that little dog, Lucia. You've chased me. You've chased me. You chased me. Now you've caught me. What are you going to do with me? You know, that how the dog will chase a car when it drives down the street. Well, here I am. You got me. What you going to do with me? and of course she didn't have anything to say then. And fight week, she pulled out. So there was,
wow.
That one still gets me.
This one from Daniel from Facebook as well. He says, how does it feel that so many fans consider you one of the greatest female boxers? Was it your goal to retire and continue in the sport with your own promotional company?
Thank you. For sure. But I wanted to stay in the sport. I didn't know how I was going to stay in the sport. I didn't know if it would be maybe as a trainer. I had at the time, you know, I had a great amateur team that I worked with. I didn't know where my position would be in the sport, but I knew I wanted to stay.
This last one from Facebook, Kenny from Facebook says, I used to train you and loved her unbelievable drive. Do you still have it?
Kenny used to train me.
That's what the guy, Kenny from Facebook, says he used to train you, loved your unbelievable drive. Do you still have it?
Wow. I think I still have an unbelievable drive. I think that, and it's the same thing with the promotion. You know, I don't want to be a club show promoter my entire career. I want to grow. It's like, you know, past the 4-round stage, or maybe up to 6, knocking on the 8-round door. But I just want to grow as a promoter as much as I did as a fighter.
All right, Christy Martin, it is time for the last segment of this show. We call it The Last Stand. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. You just give me the first thing that comes to your mind. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. In your opinion, who is the female GOAT when it comes to women's boxing?
Oh, wow. Me.
If this fight went down, Layla Ali versus Ann Wolfe, who would have won that fight?
Layla Ali would have busted her ass.
Really?
Yes, for sure. For sure.
Wow. In your opinion, best female boxer right now?
Oh, I think the Serranos, Amy and Cindy Serrano, are both very good. And the girl from Katie Taylor from Ireland. I mean, I think they're the most sound fighters. They're technically sound. All those girls.
In your opinion, best boxing promoter in the sport right now?
Wow. Me. I had to find that fighter that's gonna help me go on that ride.
Last but not
I'll
least,
say this: I'm the hardest working boxing promoter. I might not be the best, but I'm the hardest working.
I love it. Last but not least, give me the one fighter that most resembles Christy Martin that's fighting right now.
You know, I think Tiafimo in some ways, because we both like to talk shit, right? and we both walk the walk, we talk the talk, all that stuff. And Tank can punch, and that's why you get in trouble. You know, I felt like I always had that punch. We're short and stocky and stout, So those two guys.
I love it. I love it. Listen, Hall of Famer, this has been great. I've been wanting to do this for a really long time, and listen, you're an inspiration to many people, and I hope that you continue on with your platform, because I know you're going to help save a lot of people as well.
Thank you. And I hope that I'm blessed enough to help others, just make that decision to get out of the situation they're in.
Well, listen, folks, that's what we do here on The Last Stand. We bring you some of the biggest names in sports and entertainment, and in the sport of boxing, one of the biggest is Christy Martin. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.